guys. Hello, welcome to Srinivasan Aarti Raghavendra ji. I
Good
have
evening.
made Raghavendra sir. I have made you host. There is recording going on. In addition, it is live on YouTube. So now I request you to take over and conduct the entire program. And it is at your disposal, sir. You can look into 5 more minutes and then start. Meanwhile, you can exhibit something or the other, whatever you have in store. It is your option, sir. Aarti, good evening, and you are present very much at 6:30, very punctual like a student. Okay, fine, excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Srinivasan is a very adorable personality that I see. Uh, his speech, his narration, intonation, pass, and the stress that he gave while reading means he is perfect in communication skills.
Thank you
And
very much, sir.
we want to be your students, sir.
It should be the other way around, sir.
No,
Thank
no,
you
not
very
at
much.
all. Because I have not mastered anything. That's why we are in that way. Where is that science show? Who is that person? Welcome,
Shrikala.
science. Huh?
Shrikala is there. She Shrikala.
Okay, okay.
One of
So,
our participants.
yes, okay. So you can take over Raghavendra sir, and meanwhile you have to make Aarti as co-host and then proceed, I believe. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have made her co-host. We'll wait for a few more minutes. Hello, Shrikala. I got your mail that you said you will join from Science Shore, isn't it? Okay, we'll wait for a couple of minutes. Let the other participants also join. Hello, Srinivas. Nice to see you in second day's event also.
Good evening, Mr. Raghavendra. Happy to see you all today.
Yeah.
Very good evening.
Hello, Vikramjit.
It's a very good evening. Sorry, I got stuck in the traffic. Just reached and
No
immediately joined.
problem. Okay. Thank you for joining. I request Aarti to let us know today's agenda and also who all are the presenters for today and who is the first one.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for joining. Let us now start the session. The presenters for today's session are Dr. K. Shrikala Ganapati, Neha Jain, and Ravi Koparapur. The program will be beamed on YouTube Live, and if you have any comments and queries, please post it in the chat box, and it will be discussed in the interactive session. I would also like to inform you that every presenter will be given 15 minutes for the presentation. We request you to connect with the meeting till the end. Now, our first presenter, Dr. K. Shrikala Ganapati. Dr. K. Shrikala Ganapati is a founding editor of Science Shore magazine based in Chennai. She has great passion in learning and academics and did PhD in botany interdisciplinary microbiology. She loves to reach out and share knowledge with scientific community and student community. She has given presentations at various seminars and conferences and won prizes. She also edits, writes science articles. She is invited as a resource person from various colleges to address students and her talks or receive bell. She believes in lifelong learning and living life to the fullest and utilizing opportunities that come in life.
I request Dr. Srikala to start her presentation. Ma'am, am I audible? I think you are on mute. I think you are on mute. We can't listen.
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening to all. Am I audible?
You
Yes,
are.
ma'am, now you are.
Good evening to all. Thank you, Aarti, for the introduction. Thank you, IASFS team, for giving me the opportunity today. And so the topic of my presentation is exploring interdisciplinary research in science. I should share the slides. The slide visible?
Yes, we can see the slide.
Is the slide visible?
Yes, we can see the
Yes, ma'am.
slide. You just put on.
Okay. Okay. So, what is interdisciplinary research? So this is the buzzword, right, in the academic field. So even today we see students at the undergraduate level opt for dual degree program of 2 different disciplines. Like, so this is nice that exposure for different disciplines opens the mind to different approaches to looking at the problems and how one discipline can be applied to another. So that is the idea of interdisciplinary learning. So let me just give a glimpse of what interdisciplinary research or the mindset is all about. So science is all about the journey of exploration, the quest of knowledge in both creative and analytic process and finding solutions to complex problems. So interdisciplinary research teaches us that. So the simple logic is when the problem is simple, it can be solved in one approach. What when we have a complex scientific problem or a social problem? We need to go for interdisciplinary approach. That is a simple idea or the logic behind interdisciplinary mindset. Let's take a simple example of climate change, the present scenario. The fundamental science is physics, chemistry. But there is also social science. How do we get people to change their behavior? And the engineering aspects. How do we design more efficient power generation systems? How to improve insulation technologies? So having experts from many disciplines grouped into teams helps the challenges to be attacked from different sides and helps the process and learning to be more integrated and efficient. So interdisciplinary research basically involves researchers from various disciplines to work together to resolve common issues and spark scientific breakthroughs. So it is very important to tackle complex societal challenges and to stimulate scientific innovation. The idea is the data are collected through mixed qualitative and quantitative methods to reveal interesting findings, and all the findings will be undergoing an interdisciplinary interpretation and correlation. So over the last few years, interdisciplinary research has become increasingly high profile with academics and government bodies. They begin to see the importance of it to deal with humanity's greatest problems. So what experts say is some of the big challenges that we face, both societal and scientific, are not just solvable by just sitting with single discipline. If we bring different disciplines together, in the long term, it provides big scientific breakthroughs. And interdisciplinary work also helps to give a wider academic perspective. So let me give a glimpse of what are the advantages of doing interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary learning. So it gives a platform for sharing of ideas, knowledge dissemination, collaborations, and partnerships. It facilitates active exchange of knowledge. It helps in active knowledge and concept sharing between academics and researchers across different disciplines. By working collaboratively and pooling knowledge and skills, researchers can achieve fresh insights, creative solutions, and innovative breakthroughs that would not have been possible through conventional single discipline specific approaches. It helps to address complex global challenges, like example, the climate change, by experts across different disciplines, including environmental sciences, geology, economics, and politics. It helps to address the impact of climate change and mitigate its adverse effects on natural resources, agricultural production, and life on our planet. It helps to creation of new scientific fields. Researchers can help in identifying global issues, and by developing new scientific disciplines, it helps in developing a completely new field of inquiry that previously was not explored. For example, discipline of bioinformatics. It integrates computer science and biology to provide innovative new methods for studying biological data. Having understood the advantages, it's not easy to conduct interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary learning. There are some disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? The challenges in first one is challenges in finding common ground. One of the disadvantages of interdisciplinary researchers is to find a common ground between researchers across different fields.
Excuse me, Dr. Shrikala, ma'am.
Shall I continue?
Your slides get stuck in between. I think we are unable to see if you are moving your slides. It is still on the first slide only.
You're not able to see the current slide?
Yeah.
No, this is
So
only one.
after first slide, I think we don't know on which slide you are currently.
It is showing your screen sharing and you're not able to see the slide?
I can see the slide, but only first one, not the other.
Sorry?
I can see only first slide.
Only the first slide.
Yeah. If you have moved to other ones that we did not explore. Can you stop sharing once and reshare once again?
Oh, okay. I'll reshare once again.
Please
Okay.
try. Please try that.
I'm sorry about the inconvenience. I'll reshare.
Hmm.
Can you see the slide now? Is it visible? Is it visible now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, fine. So the slide, present slide, disadvantages of interdisciplinary research. Is the slide visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, fine. Shall I continue? Shall I continue?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. So should I start from again, from the beginning, or shall I continue with the present slide?
Present slide is fine.
Present slide is fine.
Yes, we were
Okay.
able to hear you all this time.
Okay, so I shared about the advantages of interdisciplinary research, and now I'll continue with the disadvantages of interdisciplinary research. So one of the disadvantages is challenges in finding common ground. As there are different ways of thinking and different approaches to problem solving, this can lead to communication difficulties and disagreements about the purpose and direction of research. Another disadvantage is it is resource intensive and time consuming, because it requires more time and resources than the conventional discipline-specific research. So researchers have to spend more time and energy to get to know information from peers from various backgrounds and gain a basic understanding about different disciplines. So, and not only that, interdisciplinary research can also have challenges in funding and could also lead to project delays. So having understood the pros and cons of interdisciplinary research, there are definitely benefits of interdisciplinary learning and research. What are they? First one, better critical thinking skills. This is very important as a science student, as a science learner, or as a science researcher. It helps to consider various viewpoints and synthesize concepts from different subject areas to solve a specific research topic. This helps to build critical thinking skills, enhance knowledge, and advance their career. It helps the researcher or the learner to have a well-rounded problem-solving approach. By looking across to various disciplines, researchers can gain fresh or better insights on their own data and methods. It also allows scientists to understand and apply various interdisciplinary concepts and ideas to support and explain their own research. Visibility to a wider audience. Interesting topics of research often lie on the boundaries of more traditional research disciplines, that is transcending the traditional research disciplines. By thinking creatively and applying expertise in collaboration with peers across different disciplines, one can gain even better visibility and wider audience for research. So what are the different examples or in different contexts?
I lost your voice. You are not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. So coming to the context or the examples where the interdisciplinary research has been applied, one of the main area is the Human Genome Project. It's an classic interdisciplinary research example where experts from wide range of disciplines, including genetics, biology, bioinformatics, and computer science, came together to complete the human genome sequence. So it is one of the major achievements. This has revolutionized knowledge of genetics and has given opportunities to study and treat various genetic diseases. Another good example of interdisciplinary research is creation of new sustainable renewable energy resources. Like researchers from environmental sciences, engineering, geology, they have collaborated to develop new technologies like solar panels, wind turbines, energy storage systems, which have the potential to transform the way we produce and consume energy. And nanomedicine, that is the nascent, growing, blooming field now. It is also an interdisciplinary research that fuses various scientific fields like nanotechnology, organic chemistry, physics, material science, pharmacology, molecular biology, and biotechnology for medical development. Another interesting interdisciplinary research example is neuroeconomics. This is very interesting. It combines economic concepts with an understanding of neuroscience. It helps in deeper understanding of neural mechanisms that underlies to understand the economic behavior, and it helps in how the humans make decisions. So these are some of the examples and success stories where interdisciplinary research has been applied. Let me just give a glimpse of our research. Our research was on the study of antibacterial activity of medicinal plants against antibiotic-resistant pathogens. So we studied medicinal plants and we identified isolated active compounds, and we wanted to study how the active compounds, that is the small molecules obtained from medicinal plants, how it can interact with the target sites on the bacterial cells. So to study that, it involved various disciplines: botany, microbiology, chemistry, using software tools, bioinformatics. So just to give a glimpse of the simple research on pharmacology and medicine and how bioinformatics is related. So I wish to say that interdisciplinary research continues to be crucial in tackling challenging scientific and social issues and helps to develop a fresh approach to problems encountered in the real world. So interdisciplinary research can produce some innovative breakthroughs. While it may present some initial challenges, these are fortunately far outweighed by its many advantages. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sorry about the inconvenience caused because of my audibility and slides.
No problem. No.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us a view on interdisciplinary research in science. Our next participant is Neha Jain. She is currently working as an assistant professor at the Assam Royal Global University, Guwahati, Assam. She is simultaneously pursuing PhD from NIT Shillong, and her broad area of research is space in American science fiction since the 1960s. She has done masters in both English and mass communication from Assam University, Shillong. Now the forum is yours, ma'am. No, ma'am, you're not.
Neha ma'am, you are not audible. And I think your video is also off. No, you're still not audible. I can see your text in the chat box. Yeah, it's better to move. By that time, yeah, Neha ma'am, you can fix the problem. Yeah. Aarti ma'am, please let us know who is next presenter so that we can listen to them and then come back to Neha ma'am.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Our next presenter is Mr. Ravi Koparapu. He is a planetary scientist in NASA, USA.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Hello,
Good
sir.
evening.
Very good evening.
So should I introduce myself, or should I start ahead and read my story?
We would love to know about you, sir.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. It was a little bit choppy.
We would love to know about you, sir.
Yeah. So I'm Ravi Koparapu. I work here at NASA Goddard near Washington, D.C. And I work on finding habitable planets that have both biosignatures and technosignatures. Literally, if I want to summarize my work, I'm trying to find aliens. And this is way we are trying to do is to use large telescopes, either with James Webb or Roman space telescopes that's going to come up, or even with advanced space telescopes that we are planning now. What are the signs of technology that we want to do? That's the question we would like to answer now.
Glad to know that, Mr. Ravi. I welcome you, and please let's start you're presenting your story, is it?
Yes.
We are very
Right.
eager to listen to your story.
Right. Give me 1 second. I'll close my door and come back. There's some noise in the background. All right. So I have written a couple of stories, and I'm choosing a story that is not related to the work I am doing. And the reason for that is because one of my best critics said that this is the story I should read because this is liked by several people, and the best critic was my wife. And so she suggested that I should read this one. So this is about this is a story about a person, and the title of the story is Chiranjeev, and the story is written from the first person's perspective, from another guy, another professor who interacts with this. The protagonist of this story. So I'm going to start ahead, and here it is. Professor Arya, the name itself invokes honor and affection, and I have never seen anyone with such expansive knowledge and grip on historical events and history. Perhaps it's not a stretch to say that a man who knows as much history as Arya is not born yet. He fluently describes historical events in real detail as though they happened just yesterday, and with such gripping narration, which makes one think he was present while they were happening. That is why his class is always full. Occasionally, students and journalists come to his class just to listen to the historical details that he explains. Today, I'm one of those professors who came to listen to him. Arya is speaking about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Everyone is listening very intently. So Arya says, after initiating Indian National Army, Netaji lived in Singapore for a couple of years. On July 6, 1944, speaking from Azad Hind radio station, he requested the blessings from Gandhiji to fight against the British. However, unfortunately, within a year, he lost his life in a plane accident, concluded Arya. A student slowly raised her hand. Question probably. Professor, you are saying that the Netaji passed away in a plane accident, but some historians dispute it and contend that he survived that accident and in fact is living in life in secrecy. Which one is true? Everyone looked at Arya. What's he going to say? He cracked a smile and paused. Perhaps he's thinking how to respond gently. Let's think about it carefully. Netaji is not an ordinary person like you and me. A man who is such well-known and who is recognized everywhere. It's impossible for him to stay hidden for so long. Besides, after Indian independence, why would he prefer to live in secrecy? Isn't that exactly what he wants as well? The student nodded, as though agreeing. It's hard to argue against solid logic, and Arya has ample amount of that. However, I myself had a question about this argument. Before I could ask, the class ended, everyone is leaving. I stood in the corner waiting for everyone to leave. Arya is surrounded by students and book publishers asking several things. After everybody left, I approached him and said, that was a great explanation of Netaji's biography, Arya. This is the first time I've ever heard anything so deep about him, and also a good response. Not only on this topic, but the other day you were explaining about the Indus Valley civilization, the Mohenjo-daro civilization. It was also outstanding. How do you know so many historical events in detail and so well? Arya responded, I'm a history professor, Balasundaram. I got this job in this university because I am good. Otherwise, I would have become a science professor like you, he joked. I laughed and said, anyway, well, if you have time this evening, could you come over for dinner? And Arya said, is this your invitation or Surekha's invitation? Well, you won't come without if my daughter invites you. I cook well, in case you have been eating a variety of food all these days. So you won't mind my cooking, right? He said, yeah, not a problem. And he looked a little bit disturbed. A small suspicion in the back of my mind. I said, why don't you come home by 6 p.m.? We will chat a little bit and have dinner. I left without looking back. So Arya and I live in a faculty campus housing within the university because the university is well known. The housing is really good. There are several world famous celebrity scientists live here, Nobel Prize winners, and Arya's house is just opposite to my house. I was waiting for Arya in the evening, standing near the window of my house, looking out at the beautiful evening sky. It's about 6 p.m. and Arya should be coming any minute now. Just then, I noticed an interesting event unfolding in front of my eyes. An old woman, perhaps 15 to 20 years older than me, maybe in the 80s, is hanging around Arya's house. She looked like she was looking for something or someone. I have not seen her before in our colony. Looking at what she is wearing, it appears that she came from a well-to-do family. Maybe she lost her way. I was about to go out and help her when I saw Arya coming out of his house. He noticed the old lady and abruptly stopped as though he was shocked. And he walked slowly towards her and started talking with her. I couldn't hear what they were talking, perhaps asking if she was lost. She started responding to his questions, it seems, and they kept continuing. I could see now Arya is not as active as he was when he came out of the house. She tried to hold his hands, but Arya moved back. I could see he's in distress. Why is he distressed by an old lady? He walked swiftly away from the old lady, but she followed him. Arya turned sharply and he barked something at her and raising his hand as though asking her to stop following him. She stood there looking dismayed, and Arya started walking towards my house. my suspicions started growing. I went to open the door for him. He looked upset. Are you okay, Arya? Are you feeling well? I asked, observing his face. He said, yeah, well, yeah. I was just worried that I would be late for the dinner, so I was a bit concerned. He took a deep breath and then said with a smile, no concerns. I'm here now. Well, you always come on time and you came late, and that's why I was asking. And then Sureka came from the kitchen. And he looked at Sureka and said, well, someone came to meet with me at the last minute, so it took a bit of time to chat and then send him away. I looked at him intently and said, are they old friends? He looked at me suspiciously, trying to find what my intent is. I laughed at it and said, you are a history professor. Of course you have old friends. And he also laughed and looks like he's settling now. And my daughter Sureka came out and said, she sat with Arya. And Arya asked her, Sureka, when is your PhD final exam? Next month on the 12th. Will you be there in town for that, Arya? He said, of course I will be. You're my fiance. How can I not be in town? I stressed to her to be on to focus on her studies. And she's already getting good job offers. There's no hurry for wedding, I said impatiently. I am not completely satisfied with their wedding, Arya and Sureka's. It's not that I'm against them. They both are brilliant people with excellent careers in front of them. Together, they can live happily and have a productive life. However, I have had my suspicions about Arya for a long time. I need to confirm them today. After dinner, Sureka went inside to do something. Arya and I sat in the main room in front of each other, chit-chatting. I asked, do you remember the question that the student asked in the morning in your class, Arya? Oh, yeah, I heard that question, said Arya. I heard this question 100 times about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. The media wants sensational news stories, so they manufacture news. There is nothing exciting. And if someone says Netaji did not die in a plane crash, that creates a controversy and it's a news cycle. And people love that. And people love to imagine things. Reality is boring for them. I listened carefully and said, well, I also have a fantasy story. I think it might be real. Do you want to listen to that? He said, oh, Balasundaram, you too, man? A science professor like you believes in fantasy stories? Well, that's why I'm telling you. Listen to it and tell me if this appears to be fantasy or not, if it appears to be real or not to you. He said, okay. And I got up and went to my book cupboard. And I pulled out a very old metal box. It's about the size of a small suitcase. Carrying out with my hands, I placed it in front of Arya and took some old papers out of the box. By the way, you have not answered that student's question, right? I already said that I answered, right? Said Arya. No, you answered the student's questions with another question. But you have not answered yes or no. Why didn't you say no? It was just a gossip story. Arya said, well, I thought that was the right answer at that time. I took out an old photo out of the box I took from the cupboard and showed him. My dad's brother worked in Indian National Army along with Netaji. He met Netaji several times. Do you remember 1948, August 18? Arya said, yeah, that was the day Netaji died in a plane crash. That's right, I said. Netaji took a picture with soldiers before he boarded that fateful flight. My dad's brother, who worked in that army, was there at that time too. I leaned towards Arya and said slowly, you see this picture? This is my dad's brother. Do you know where Netaji is? He said, yeah, that's Netaji. And then I asked, do you recognize the person standing next to Netaji behind him? Arya took that picture slowly into his hands. He didn't look towards me or did not respond. I said, should I tell you, Arya, who that is? Who is standing behind Netaji? He looks like you, isn't it? Silence from Arya. I took Arya's hand and asked, it has been 15 years since you joined this university. At that time, you mentioned that you were 32 years old. So you must be 47 now. Look at your hand and my hand. My hand has aged and yours did not. You look barely 35 and almost look exactly the same as you joined. Why? Arya stood up and went towards the window. He didn't respond. I got up and said, how do you know so much history, Arya? No response from him. Why are you speechless? I have seen you talking with an old lady before you arrived. Who was she? Why did you look so distressed seeing her? Still silent. Asking again, you Arya, how old are you? By my estimate, you must be at least 100 years old. Arya looked at me finally and broke his silence. Is this your fantasy story you're going to tell me? Well, you are the only one who can confirm if this is a fantasy or not, I said. Arya looked at me and said, don't ask questions for which you are not ready to hear the answers. What does that mean? My suspicion is growing by leaps and bounds. No one can understand or ready to understand what I'm about to say. I will understand. This concerns my daughter's future, so you must tell, I insisted. He said and said, that old lady you saw was my wife. I was stunned. Your wife? Yes, we married 60 years ago. Very wealthy lady. Unfortunately, she changed with time and I did not. To avoid any suspicion, I left and went far away. Not sure how she tracked me down here. I'm getting agitated. How many more people have you married like this? Even my daughter will suffer the same fate. Why are you cheating everyone? Who are you? How old are you for real? I asked. Arya came close to me. Do you remember I was talking about the Indus Valley civilization and you said I explained it very well? Yes. Am I ready to hear this? Am I really? Balasundaram, I not only know about this, but I have seen it and lived through it, he said calmly. I had no words. My mind is still trying to grasp the magnitude of the statement. So are you at least 5,000 years old? He shrugged and said, could be more. The hits keep coming, even more. I'm not even having time to process this barrage of information. Arya smiled and said, let me tell you another small thing. Maybe it will be hard to believe for you. Even harder than what I have already heard. What is it? Well, you know Ramayana, right? Yeah, who wrote it? I said, Valmiki, of course. He said, slowly looking at me. Looks like people liked it. Another stunning statement. What is he going to say next? Is this believable? I don't believe you. You wrote it? I don't want to believe him. He said, if you don't believe this, you certainly won't believe what I'm about to say again. I guess I don't have to speak out anymore because he could see it on my face, the shock and the horror. What do you think happened at the end of Mahabharata story? What are you asking? I don't know. Maybe everyone went away to heaven, I guess. Well, that is how it was written. Let's keep that aside for a moment. What do you think happened to Lord Krishna? Krishna? What about him? The story is that he died because of someone shot an arrow accidentally, and then while he was lying on a tree, he interrupted me in mid-sentence and said, it was not an accident, just for information. What do you mean? How do you know? I asked. I should not have asked, but it was too late because I'm not sure I'm ready to hear this. Well, I should know this because I shot the arrow. What? Yeah, well, Krishna was also like me, an eternal, several thousand years old. We knew about each other. I told him that if we work together, we can rule the world, but he did not agree. We had to part our ways. His noble deeds increased his influence and power, and I figured that he would be a problem eventually. So, and he stopped. What the hell is he saying? Does this sound like a fantasy to you? He asked. No human can live this long. I'm a scientist. I'm a science professor. I know this. I'm in the denial stage right now, for sure, even though the facts are standing in front of me. Humans like you cannot live that long, Arya. But people, of course. Humans, you think I'm a human. Humans like you, Balasundaram, cannot live that long. But people like me don't have such limits. Yes, there are several others like me around the world in different occupations and different jobs. Everyone is not the same age. We were also born just like you. However, nature cursed us with this longevity. I asked, curse? Do you know how many people will love to have the gift you have? Forget others. I want to have the same gift that you have to live long. Tell me, how do you become an eternal? I shouted. There is no secret. We were born like this. We do not have natural death. Only an accident kills us. It might appear as a great God-given gift in the beginning, but when you see your friends and family, close ones dying in front of your eyes, and it happens over and over again for thousands of years, it is not a gift. It is hell. You knew all this, and you still wanted to marry my daughter? I asked angrily. I am not in control of my age and not my emotions. You have no idea how lonely it can be over the last 1,000 years. I need someone to share my feelings. There were times when I lived alone for hundreds of years, and let me tell you, it would be a torture I would not want to live again. I lost control of myself and said furiously, I cannot let you marry my daughter and destroy her life because you need a partner to save you from loneliness. I'm going to expose you to everyone. Arya laughed and said, yes, I anticipated this response and it happened before too. So I came prepared. Prepare for what? A strange feeling inside me, perhaps fear. He came close to my ear and whispered, that means I am Chiranjeev. You are not. I felt a sharp pinprick and pain in my back. My body is unable to move. Arya was watching me, looking at his hand. 2,000 years ago in Baghdad, some fakir gave me this small thing. He said that the heart stops after a small pinch in a few minutes. What do you think? Is it working on you? I saw it then, just when I was losing my consciousness. Heavy blow on Arya's head, and he collapsed. Standing on him is Sureka with a rock tablet historical event he gave her as a gift in her hand. The end. That's it. Thank you.
We thank you and your critic, sir, for the beautiful and well-written story. Now, our next presenter is Professor Neha Jain.
I'm audible this time, I believe.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes, and I'm visible also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm really sorry for all the inconvenience caused before. So first of all, before beginning, I would like to express my heartfelt condolences and tribute to Mrs. Mangala Narlikar. And I'll start with my presentation without further delays. I'll share my screen. Please help me with whether you're able to actually see my screen or not. Can you please give me the access, please? It shows me the prompt, only the host can share.
Yeah.
Screen.
Srinarahari sir, you are the host now. Could you please provide the access to Neha ma'am?
Arthi Priya, the co-host, can give the access.
Okay, sir. No, I could not.
Neha ma'am, can you please try now sharing your screen?
Yes, yes.
Neha madam, you are the co-host. I believe that you can share now. You can give a try, otherwise I shall make you host him.
Is it
Yourself.
visible now?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm?
Then I would now begin. Am I audible, right? Or do I
Yeah,
need
sure.
to volume a bit?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. If there's any problem, please do tell me in between.
Okay.
So, the topic for today's presentation here is the revolt of the plants, understanding ecosophies through science fiction. So the first presenter today had talked at length about interdisciplinary research, and taking cues from there, I would just be employing science fiction as a tool, as an important tool, which actually helps or creates a fertile ground for us to create an interdisciplinary discourse on various aspects of life. We're talking about science, we're talking about technology, we're talking about human beings, we're talking about plants, species, and we're discussing some serious problems through the medium of science fiction. And today's presentation is based on the concept, the philosophy of ecosophy, and I want to try to understand the concept of ecosophy through science fiction. So moving ahead, the objective of today's talk or today's paper is basically to decipher the interaction between three different disciplines, three different concepts.
Excuse me, Neha ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I can't see your screen.
Now,
No, not yet.
just a second. Let me try once again. Microsoft. Is it visible now?
No, ma'am, not yet. You have to click on share screen and then you have to select the window of your slides.
I have to, will you please repeat?
You have to click on share screen.
But I did that.
Yeah, and then select the window of your slides.
Okay.
And then click on share.
Visible now?
No, I'm sorry. You have to click on share screen, that is green arrow.
Yes, I clicked
below.
on that.
Yeah, then you have to select the window of your slides.
Yes, I've done that.
And then below there is one more button, share, that you have to share.
Yes, done.
On the right hand bottom that you have the button called share. Not possible? Shall we make you host then?
No, the problem is not with that, I believe.
Hmm.
Is it visible now?
No, not at all. Shall we do that?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Raghavendra sir, you can also demonstrate being a host, how you are going to do, and it is visible to her. you can open one of the windows and show her how you are going to do it.
Okay.
Sir, even if she shares the file with Raghavendra sir, Aarti ma'am, or you, then I think that you can share it. That would be easier in case there is a technical issue.
Also a good alternative.
Right. Unsupported document type. Okay.
Hmm.
Does Zoom not like share PPTs?
You can share PPT, but I don't know which file format you are using now.
Microsoft 365.
1 minute, let me suggest, is there any other participant who is pending to read a story or a paper? Aarti ma'am.
No, sir. She is the
No.
last presenter.
Okay, we can go on like this, and Bikramjit and Neha Jain, both of you can have this any desk matter. You know, if you can share that, he will handle that and then give it back.
What we can do is, wait,
Any
since
desk team viewer, anything that if you have? No. One thing you can do even, you can send your file to Bikramjit Ghosh. He will just type his WhatsApp number or the email ID so that he will open on your behalf. Will that do, Bikramjit? No. Otherwise, one thing, you can go on speaking. We shall listen to you. That's the ultimate. And we have come to listen to you, you know.
no, that would not be required. I have found a way out, I think. Yes. Is it visible?
Yes, sure, but this is another way. Okay.
Is it visible?
Great. You rise to the occasion. Fine. Wonderful.
Yes.
You can go on. No problem.
Okay.
Congrats.
Okay, so the objective for today's talk, as I told you before, is deciphering the interaction between Anthropocene, science fiction, and ecosophy. I would be basically talking about how science fiction, collaborates with these two concepts of Anthropocene and ecosophy today. The second objective would be studying ecosophy, the philosophy of ecosophy, through the lens of science fiction, and trying and understanding the present through the 1960s. For the purpose of the same, I employ two primary texts, The Genocides by Thomas Disch, who is an American science fiction writer, written, and the text was written in 1965, and the other one is Ecology, Community, and Lifestyle, Outline of an Ecosophy, written in 1974 by Arne Nice. So moving ahead, let's talk about what Anthropocene means. So all of us are mostly aware of the term, I believe. So popularized by Paul Crutzen in 1999, Anthropocene refers to the present geological era when the effects of human activity on the environment are becoming too visible in the planet's geological, climatological, and fossil record. So the impact which we, the human beings, are leaving behind on Earth, the disaster which we are creating by our overuse of resources, by our bad handling of Earth's resources, is basically referred to as the Anthropocene. We are in the era of Anthropocene, where we, being the center at the Earth, are trying to, misuse, overutilize Earth's resources. To quote Donna Haraway, in her book in which she talks about the concept of Thulucene, she talks about Anthropocene as the Anthropocene marks severe discontinuities. What comes after will not be like what came before. I think our job is to make the Anthropocene as short or thin as possible and to cultivate with each other in a way imaginable epochs to come that can replenish refuge. So when Haraway talks about Anthropocene, she's trying to talk about connections between humans and other species. Throughout her text, in which she gives us the concept of the Thulucine, she refers to a tentacular connection between human species and the other species, which is very important for our survival as well as the survival of our planet. Decentering the center, because Anthropocene would mean somehow to keep human at the center of the earth and looking at the entire planet from the perspective of the human, from the giving human as the importance, as the center. Haraway identifies 4 major events which invite a discussion, a serious discussion on the Anthropocene. She talks about 4 great wounds to mankind, the Copernican wound, where we first came to know that, okay, the earth is not at the center, and we are actually revolving around the sun, and that what shakes our confidence on our planet. Moving ahead, the second great blow to humankind. We are not at the center, we are not unique, rather we have evolved, we have come as a process of evolution from other species. Our tentacular ties, which she refers to with the chimpanzees, with the apes, with the early men. And next great blow, which Haraway identifies, the Freudian wound, where she complicates the conscious being and she posts our unconscious as more important to our conscious being. So from the existence of the planet to the existence of our species to the existence of our own being, where she gives importance to our unconscious being. And finally, the 4th important blow which she gives, which she herself talks about in the cyborg, is the cyborgian wound. She talks about it in the Cyborg Manifesto. And she says very plainly, if there is a cyborg today who is a mix of a mecha and an orga, so orga, which is purportedly a god's making, and then a mecha, which is perhaps a man's making, then where does the authority of the god lie? And she talks about the authority of feminism there, and she comes in her view of this old age conflict between the patriarchs and the feminists, and she says that, okay, if God is not at the center of things, if God is not the sole maker of the mankind, then what happens to the status of woman then? Then woman perhaps also can claim to a liberty from patriarchy, a liberty from the center, which has been somewhere made by a godly authority to somewhere class woman in terms of patriarchy. So talking about this, moving towards the philosophy of ecosophy now, why Anthropocene, why a discussion on Anthropocene is important today, why it is important today to think about a collaborative living with other species, especially when we're designing robots who are actually coexisting with us. We are moving towards being robotic and mechanical, where robots are moving towards an era where they're more human. So what does ecosophy mean? Taking from Arnina's, ecosophy would simply mean ecology plus philosophy. Let's try to look at the essence, what Nice, the way in which Nice actually conceptualizes the term ecosophy. So Nice gives a lecture somewhere in Oslo, and after an hour, he suddenly stops, glances quickly around the stage, and suddenly leaves the podium and approaches a potted plant to his left. He quickly pulls off a leaf, scurries back to the microphone, and gazes sincerely at the audience as he holds the leaf in the light so all can see. And he says, "You can spend a lifetime contemplating this. It is enough. Thank you." So this very feeling of oneness with the leaves, with the plants, gives us 4 important propositions which Nice delivers or contends in his book. Human beings are inseparable from nature. This inseparability is a continuation from, I see it as a continuation from Haraway's Thulucine, the concept of Thulucine, where she talks about those tentacular ties with other species. And that connection of human beings with nature, it turns into what is known as a personal philosophy. So what my connection with a plant would be is my personal connection with nature. And then comes this concept of ethics, which Nice propounds on. And that's where we are hinting at today in our topic when we are talking about the revolt of the plants. What happens when we are not ethical to the other species, when we don't treat the other as the other, when we don't respect the identity, the existence, the importance of the other, when we are not ethical in recognizing the other. That's what Levinas talks about when he talks about the proposition of self and the other. And Levinas is one of the prominent figures who've been stressing on the concept of ethics when he's talking about self and the other. So it is perhaps the responsibility of the self, the us, to maintain the sanctity, the presence, the otherness of the other. It is from the otherness of the other that the self is perhaps realized in its totality. And what the fourth proposition, which Nice talks about in his concept of ecosophy, is about practical action. So the manner in which Nice actually deliberates his philosophy on ecology, which is ecosophy, is an urgent take. It is an urgent take on ecosophy. He demands action out of us. I would just relate Hannah Arendt here. Hannah Arendt has been writing way back in the 1950s, where she's talking about space, and she's talking about how any kind of a space comes into action only when there is an activity there. So that space becomes an active space. A space is not just a backdrop. It is rather an active agent there. So today, when we are talking about ecology, when we are talking about environments, then what is environment today? How science fiction looks at environment today? And I'll just move on to our next slides, where we are now talking about science fiction. We're trying to understand the representation of Anthropocene, the representation of ecosophy or ecological consciousness in science fiction. In very brief, I would just, in two simple quotes, talk about what science fiction as a genre is about. It is no doubt an interdisciplinary research area which gives us scope to imagine diverse worlds, strange worlds, which give us a glimpse of our own conditions of life in a new and revolutionary perspective. So moving ahead to the case studies, which I want to talk about, and how science fiction or how the text Genocides tackles or takes into action the concept of Anthropocene, ecosophy, and our imagination of a world, of an alternate world. So what is Genocides? What is the text Genocide about? So the text Genocide is about the imagination of an alternate world which portrays the genocide of human species by aliens who seed Earth with enormous plants. So there is perhaps the imagination of a group of aliens who come to Earth and plant enormous plants on Earth. So the plants are massive and rapidly outcompete terrestrial flora, forming a monoculture. So there is this explanation in the text that the plant's roots are hollow and they form a massive and an interlocking underground network, and an inevitable extermination of the human species at the end, with all characters in a wilderness. The environment in action. The environment is in retaliation against the human civilization. So the text is about a breed of plants which is perhaps planted by aliens from some other planet who wants a complete extermination of human species. The text throughout highlights the struggles of its characters in trying to survive. There are three characters who continuously try to survive through the odds, who go on the plantation, who go on cutting the plantations time and again without any results. They are in vain. Ultimately, they themselves die towards the end of the text, die by plants. So this very concept of how the environment, the plants can rise in retaliation against the earth is being shown here. Just to give you a closer look at the text, I've just taken some quotes from the text, and these are really interesting, or I think a warning call for us all. Since the 1965, where have we come today? Let's have a look at it. What was the writer trying to talk in 1965, and where are we actually standing today? Those trees or plants, as Anderson, one of the characters, called them, were 600 feet tall, and the biggest leaves were the size of billboards. Here on the edge of the cornfield, the growth was more recent, not more than 2 years, and the highest stood only 150 feet tall. So the aliens had planted some 150 feet tall, 600 feet tall, biggest leaves plants, which don't take 2 years to get a growth of 150 feet. Were the plants themselves the invaders? One of the characters talks about. No, they were only plants. So this gives us a consideration, when we look about the next quote, it wounded his pride to think that his race, his species, his world was being defeated with such apparent ease. It's really difficult for us to even imagine that these plants on whom we have so easy control, whom we can easily cut and trample under our feet, can actually defeat us with such apparent ease. What was worse, what he could not endure, was the suspicion that it all meant nothing, that the process of their annihilation was something quite mechanical, that mankind's destroyers were not, in other words, fighting a war, but merely spraying a garden. So, to think of it, when we are today destroying the environment, what are we? Are we human or are we mechanical? And when the order inverts for us, and when it is the plan, say for instance in this novel, then the character somehow tries to stick to his pride in thinking that how can he be so easily be defeated by plants? And the annihilation is perhaps something quite mechanical. Nature is prodigal. Of 100 seedlings, only 1 or 2 would survive. Of 100 species, only 1 or 2, not however man. Thus, the novel ends giving us this hint that human beings towards the end in that novel do not survive. The question is, the novel which is written in the 1960s, I'll just give a brief contextual backdrop of the 1950s, which helps us understand, which helps us create or develop an understanding between 3 different concepts which I've talked about, which I understand completely must have been too heavy for all of us to now simply, think about in such a short span of a presentation. So what was the 1960s about? I'm talking about the genocide. I'm talking about ecosophy. I'm talking about science fiction. All these things were perhaps happening at the same time. When we look back at the 1960s, we're looking at we're looking at the space race between the USA and the USSR. We're looking at Neil Armstrong going to the moon, landing on the moon. We're looking at the horrors of genocides. We're looking at the Vietnam War, the countercultural revolution, the civil rights movements. We're looking at genocides like the Indonesian mass killings, the Bangladesh genocides. And at the same time, we're looking at the golden era of the science fiction. We're looking at the soft science fiction, the development of science fiction as a distinct genre, the popularity of science fiction into the mainstream. However, it doesn't count into the mainstream in the 1960s, but it is taking toddler steps into its recognition. We are seeing, most importantly, while talking about this connection between ecology and science fiction, we are seeing Rachel Carson's Silent Spring being written in 1962, which diverts the attention of the entire globe towards ecology and environmental consciousness. Amidst this context, we see not only novel like the genocides, there are multiple other examples. We see novel like The Dune, which describes a barren planet for us. We see, most importantly, we see in 1965, we see Satyajit Ray coming up with his book On the Diary of a Space Traveler, and we see how he portrays inverted image of Mars. And as far as my memory goes, I've read one of short stories of Satyajit Ray, and I'm sure most of us here present here now must have read that, where he gives us this Professor Shonku's diary, which is being found someday, and there's this description of Mars where he says that the rivers are red, the sky is green, the plants and animals are blue, and then towards the end of the story, I remember that Professor Shonku, along with his co-mates, the robot and there's Patik, I think, Prahlad, Prahlad, they just somehow escape from Mars because there's that fear of extinction. They won't be able to survive there on Mars because of some other species which is living there. And ultimately, they go and take refuge in some other planet which is described as Tapa. So these imaginations of other spaces, of other planets, of other utopian or dystopian habitations, they come from where? They come from our own hopes and fears of surviving here on Earth. So that is what drives that is perhaps the beauty of science fiction in coming up with so serious concepts as ecosophy, as ecological consciousness, as the importance given to space and environments, and as the I think the thrash which genocides gives us, the hard, the rough, the harsh truth of what human beings are doing today to other species, to other human beings in general. For a concluding remark, I would now move towards concluding my talk, and I'm sure I must have taken more than 15 minutes. I'm really sorry for that. And I'll just conclude saying that, taking a quote from Hannah Arendt, which she concludes in Eichmann in Jerusalem. So Eichmann was a person who was responsible for the epic genocide which we have been all suffering till today. And he was not the one who was solely in charge of the same. He was simply directed to do so, and he did so. Just as you supported and carried out a policy of not wanting to share the earth with the Jewish people and the people of a number of other nations, as though you and your superiors had any right to determine who should and who should not inhabit the world, we find that no one, that is, no member of the human race, can be expected to want to share the earth with you. This is the reason, and the only reason, you must hang. In her work, The Banality of Evil, she comes out in support as well as in contradiction of Eichmann and his authority or his enslavement in exterminating the Jews. I would just take the liberty to change a few words here and there and rest my paper with a thought, with a discussion on ecosophy. Just as we are collectively contributing in deciding the fate of the environment around us, as though we have any right to determine which species should and which should not inhabit the earth. The day might not be too far when our actions would decide a collective fate, only to be remembered as dinosaurs are today. Just like the way in the genocides, the human species does not find existence towards the end, we perhaps have to take the warning from the 60s today very seriously, and with the help of other disciplines of sciences and humanities, take the matter ahead and perhaps come up with other important imaginations of space and human species in collaboration with others, just like Donna Haraway comes up with her concept of the Thulucine. Resting here, thank you so much. I would invite questions if there are.
Thank you, ma'am. Excellent presentation and suggesting us a way for presentation at the time of technical crisis. Now, I request Mr. Raghavendra to display Mr. Jayantri Narlikar's message on this occasion.
Sure.
I am happy to note that science fiction writers from India in various languages are meeting together on July 19 at Indian Association for Science Fiction Studies, Bengaluru. I expect the rising possibility of science fiction stories will ensure participation by more and more new writers. In that case, I am sure there are good days ahead for science fiction writing in Indian languages. On this occasion, my best wishes to all of you.
I believe it was audible enough to all. Was there any problem, Aarti?
No, sir, it is audible.
Okay,
It was okay.
fine. Thank Narlikar sir, also, sir, for giving us a message short with this in this difficult time. And now we should move to Vikramjit sir for interaction. If there are any comments and questions, now forum is open for discussion.
Thank you so much, Raghavendra sir. It has been a fantastic evening today as well. Just like we have had, eminent guests who had lighted up the evening for us yesterday. The same way we have come across different research paper and storytelling sessions today itself as well, which started with Dr. Shrikala Ganapathy madam, who started the session with a wonderful explanation of exploring the interdisciplinary research in science, which took us to a wild tour of the entire options that we can get, not just sticking to science fiction, but the scopes for science fiction in the different disciplines of science itself. And she has discussed the advantages and disadvantages of that, and the challenging scientific and social issues that relate to the interdisciplinary research studies. If anybody has some questions for ma'am, we can put it forward to her. Anything that relates to your understanding or something that you're curious about for the interdisciplinary research in science, that we can take science fiction to a different level.
Yeah, I have a question, ma'am, but the same, it may sound in the same way. Just can you throw some more light on how we can use interdisciplinary sciences and recent advancement for developing science fiction stories with some of the examples in recent trends? That would be very helpful. You are not audible, Shrikala ma'am. Are you there?
Okay.
Okay, no problem. Vikramjit sir, we can
I can throw some light upon this. Not exactly the thing that she spoke in general. I was in Kottayam for giving a lecture there on one of the occasions. Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, A.P. Jayaraman, the chairperson of National Center for Science Communicators, was also with me, shared the dais, and he began with the interdisciplinary way, how we can connect each other by giving only a simple example of making dosa. How you can think of its shape, size, and others of physics, its smell and others of chemistry, and its combination, how the ingredients have come, and later on biochemistry. Every parts of the science or the branches of science had creeped in to explain the different angles of making a dosa. So this is in general, I remembered that how interdisciplinary could be in life also. Thank you. You can continue with seriousness. This is only a passing statement.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. That was that was nice. I have another question to Ravi. That was really a wonderful story, Ravi. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I want to know, is it published in any anthology or any magazine so that we can go back and read once again? I know this recording are still there online, but still for any reference purpose, we can refer. If it is published, you can share its citation with us.
I think it is about 11:30 or so in Maryland, and he may be preparing to go to duty also. This is morning for him, so he may not be available, and we shall write to him and get back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, Bikramji, please take us ahead.
Thanks, sir. As Raghavendra sir had a question for Mr. Ravi Koparapu sir regarding the particular availability of that particular thing, which we have come across Professor Arya. And the story of Professor Arya had taken us to a tour of a completely different world where, we could come across different kind of explanation or a particular thematic unity, as Professor Dr. Balaji has quoted over here. Okay, taking the narrative devices to a lively presentation. So definitely it is so. Moving on to them, had come up with Anthropocene. Now Anthropocene, right? So Anthropocene, as with a philosophy of ecosophy, ecology and philosophy.
You are on mute, Vikramji.
I'm sorry, it got reconnected. It got disconnected and it reconnected again. So we were discussing about Neha Jain madam's presentation today, wherein we got to know about different terms and the different aspects that we can venture into. Like the philosophy of ecosophy, which is completely new to us, and it is really something which we got to know about, and we have never come across this particular thing. My wife is a software engineer, and she is also with me over here, and she was also very curious when this particular term was introduced. And thank you, Neha ma'am, for coming up with completely a different kind of knowledge for us. She has also come across the extermination of the human species, something that we can, it's high time that we must think for, at least in the thoughts of some wise people since 1965, as she quotes. So that was also something which we have come across in a new shape. So if anybody has some questions for Neha Jain madam, then we can put it across to her.
Hello.
Sir, please say.
That paper actually was a good paper. I wish I could read the whole paper. I hope you'll be able to send a soft copy of it sometime. Madam, I was very much impressed by Haraway's name and the concepts we are talking about. I had done a lot of work on that, Promise of Monsters, all that, Cyborg Manifesto and all that, those days. And the genocide, as Bikram was talking about, It was a time, 60s, okay, we used to call it as the boom in doom, where nothing but a lot of negative images were present those days. And all that science fiction then was basically on this negative destructive potential. But it's only much later, 70s and 80s, that we find that the things have become more positive. But today we are in a very balanced state of flux, as it were, where both things are possible. Anyway, that was a good presentation. I'm happy to have seen it and heard it. Please do that. And Ecosophy is a wonderful title, concept, which I had not read till now. Maybe I'll start reading it from now on. Thank you for opening up a new concept for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your comments on it. I've actually been developing a paper now on it. In the process of developing the paper, I've come across so many terminologies, which has kept me confusing and just kept me stuck somewhere. And when this opportunity came in for a presentation, I just grabbed the opportunity so that I can come across with some comments, which can also help me redesign or, just get the paper in a better shape. Because when we talk about too many terminologies, at times we tend to confuse ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
As well. So
We
that
lose
was
track
there
of
in
it.
my mind when I was presenting that also, that I've been perhaps coming up with too many terminologies for, confusing the people who are listening to it for the first time. Well, the concept of ecosophy is not just handled by NIAS. Guattari also writes on the concept of ecosophy. And I haven't been too deep into it, and I just thought to keep it out of the purview for today's presentation. For the purpose of my paper, I've been also considering one more novel, so that it gives a more genuine or a more solid contention to my
Which
testimony.
one?
I've
Which
been trying to
novel?
take Dune by Frank Herbert.
Yeah, I know.
Which also talks about the environment, which also talks about the barren desert lands, and how that not only talks about the environment or ecology, it also talks about perhaps one aspect of American imagination, American obsession with frontiers, American obsession with hardships, the long lost American dream of imagining his own self in hardships continuously, and how they overcome the hardships always, be it Old Man and the Sea, or be it Dune, or be it any other American text. So I've been trying to
I'm very
develop.
happy.
Yes,
I'm
still trying
happy
to develop.
to find another Dune fan. I had started my PhD with Dune, actually. Then I had to drop it because there were too many fictions. I did on Asimov and Herbert, then dropped Herbert and stuck to Asimov with his Foundation universe. So that's how I know. I still have the entire collection with me. It's a great world of Dune, actually. Good, keep it up. We'll keep in touch. Okay.
Definitely.
Bye. Who else?
Okay, I think Vikramjit, we have come to conclusion of the I think you are still on mute. Yeah, we have come to conclusion.
Yeah. Narahari?
I request Narahari sir.
Yeah.
Yes. The end is in my beginning.
Omega to alpha.
Okay. Where to begin is also a problem, because we have had Indian science fiction. The second wave came up in 1970s actually, with the Marathi Vigyan Parishad running the competition of writing the science fiction story, in which one of these persons won the first prize. And he had written in pseudonym. He had made use of pseudonym, and he was Jayant Narlikar. So the pioneer and the torchbearer of Indian science fiction. He is representing what we call it as the science, astronomy. And what is the Mathematics is also known as the queen of sciences. In that sense, we have got Mangala. And one is what we call it as a hardcore and another is softcore. That's because our voice is softened now. But even though the voice has gone and everything is what we call it from the mythical days, Greek as well as Indians were very much advanced in finding what happens next. For example, if there is in November one of the solar eclipse, they used to predict at what time it begins, at what time it will be the peak, and at what time it will vanish and close. For that, science, astronomy should have a relationship and a closer relationship with mathematics itself. So what we call it as the incarnation of the mythical personality is now Jain Narlikar. So he has begun, and after that, we have not turned back. Everyone, what is the difference that we notice from the US to Indian is that in American science fiction, there are certain editors who shaped the science fiction. W. Campbell or someone like that. In India, there is no leader. So whatever we write may be published by some of the publishing agencies or books. So we have to go back to the statement, what is science fiction? Science fiction is that which is published in a science fiction magazine. It is ridiculous. It has got its own rules, regulations, and also framework within which only we have to progress much. So this is not at all seen, even an Asimov's story, who is not at all for what you call it. He wants to safeguard. The safety is the first one that he says in 3 laws of robotics. Against that also, people have written some stories and they were published. So nobody watches, no monitoring. So who has to do it? There are 2 things that we have here in the same system. We have got creative writers and also critical writers. What to be read and what not to be read, and what we can call it as trash, and what is hard science fiction, and also sociological science fiction. All these things, it is the responsibility of the critical writing that has to come up and then develop. Indian Association for Science Fiction is 25 years now. We are celebrating the silver jubilee year now. In that sense, we have grown only with regard to you and involvement. Right from the beginning, we have been associated with many of the organizations, and now we are thinking that we can also manage ourselves, and the last conference was an example for that. Not that I mean that we don't want other collaborations. We want people, we want organizations, we have to grow together. As we have seen yesterday, there were 5 writers, 5 readers. Today also 5 readers. That means to say, Asimov's story, I remember 5-finger exercise. If everything comes together, then there is India. How to represent India outside? We have got certain books released by eminent personalities like Sumit Bardhan, Vandana Singh, and others who are staying outside India. And it is not a difficult task because they have managed to know the secrets of publication at the global level. How about we, the poor Indians? how we can become global, where can we go. So this association is only facilitating you to become global and to shine more. For that sake, there are several magazines which will take up our publications, our stories to be published. Lightning is one, and also there is one fantastic kind art in UK and other magazines which will take Indians' work. Along with that, the visual science fiction should also grow accordingly, but they highlight only special effects and not a thin layer of science will be there. Usually, it should go away. We must say that without science, there is no science fiction. In that regard, we have to combine that in such a way. A story is woven in such a way that science element has to be highlighted there. And nowadays, people have lost the habit of writing at all. Only one thing is that there are social medias in which they won't write even a sentence, emojis will be substituted. How about the language? Sentence, words, or phrases, or antonyms, synonyms, all these things have no value now. And it is a challenging task in a span of 5 years that there would be a competition like write anything without the help of AI, GPT, one paragraph. So it is difficult. So we know this is a very difficult task that a writer with his own experience is sharing to the public. So what best we can do, there are platforms that we can make. Sci-Fi Katta in Maharashtra, Indian Association for Science Writers in Varanasi, and also Kalpa Vishwa in Kolkata, and also MVP and Kerala Shastra, Science Shastra Samaj also, and a few of them are working and they are all segregated. Now we have to unite them. And also the second aspect is we have to go to foreign countries to propagate what we have. Luckily, I got an offer that Indian science fiction stories will be made as text in 2 of the foreign universities, and I am collecting data which are the best that we have. Even in the past, at the beginning of our association also, I was asked to select the best Indian science fiction story, and that was by Lakshman Lode, The Second Coming. And it was accepted by James Gunn, and it was translated to many of the languages even. So that's how we has to go. No, there is no turning back. We are the leading one in the world. At that stage, I am very much humble to state 2 of the facts, which are also personal. I am invited as a guest of honor at the British National Science Conference, and also now very recently yesterday, I am invited to be a guest at the 81st World Cup. So I thought, why should I go? If I won't go, we cannot have India on the science fiction world or map on that, even if I leave that. So it is a very short duration for me to express within a day any alternative. And I had in mind, let the youngsters come up. So at this level, what our aim is that the youngsters must take over one by one. And I'm very happy even the 22nd conference was conducted by youngsters, and that is reported in Locus also, what is the specialty. Now we see youngsters like Raghavendra, Aarti, Vikram, and Shovik have shouldered the responsibility of running an institution. And we were in an embryonic stage. Now we have grown 25 years old, and we appear very beautiful to the world. And now we can go ahead anywhere because youngsters appear beautiful and also handsome. That's obvious. And whatever we do, that will be a model for the world also, because we know that there is no progress in other countries, what they claim to be new works. So here we have a combination of myth, fantasy, horror, as well as science fiction like this. And science fiction is the present contemporary literature. Hence, we have a scope to develop that. With this, I have to thank everyone here for accepting our invitation and also registering and also presenting paper very seriously. And each one requires hours together to study each aspect of it, and then only we can assimilate things. Just reading or listening is not sufficient for us, because there are so many references, class references, and also quotes that we have to go through and also assimilate the thing, and also we have to convey it to others. So I have to thank you all. And before the close, I have to say, this is also a beginning for the next event. What we plan to do is, I had planned to have the author of the month to speak every month. Instead of that, I thought that there are 4 seasons: autumn, spring, winter, summer, like this. If we have each season, and also we can conduct certain things like this, an event like this, then once in 4 months or 3 months, we can meet and consolidate, and also we can have economically, we can do it like this. For example, even if we conduct a program for 1 day, we will have to spend the same amount. If it is for a week, it's well and good. And I think that this is the suitable time for everyone to spare for a week. This week is for science fiction, we can say, and then proceed. So that doesn't repeat every week, you know. So once in 3 months or 4 months, we can have these occasions and also events, I believe. And however, you can write to me about your opinion and also how it could be developed in the hands of the youngsters. Mainly, the youngsters will take over. Thank you all. And especially Professor Dr. Balaji Navale and also Abhishek had difficulty in coming to present this. And they are present today, and we are very grateful to you, the scholars like them. One is a creative writer, Abhishek, represents the entire Hindi area, and also Professor Balaji Navale is a scholar and also a research person, and very much learned and course from all the directions, and resourceful, and we are very happy about it. And off the shore, we have Ravi Koparapu, who has joined with us, and we are happy that Indian science fiction doesn't restrict itself to India alone. And we have spread our tentacles everywhere. Even on the other side, we have it, like Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong. We have got many writers who will also take part in it. And it all depends upon the timeline that we have to look into. Thank you very much for joining. And I can say only one word for all of you. Namaskar. Thank you.
Yeah, namaskar. What, Narahari? You're all dressed up for your foreign trips? Huh?
What is that?
As I said, you're all dressed up to go abroad for the 2 conventions.
No. I had a meeting just now. I had a meeting, another meeting. I am coming directly from there and I could not help it. Even I had no time to change because you were all waiting, So I didn't take even a cup of coffee. I'm sitting here.
Now you
No
go
problem. I will
earlier.
have
Dinner.
a compensation. No problem.
Yeah, I know what you'll do.
And I request our team, Bikramjit, to remain here for a word that I want to exchange at the end. And Raghavendra sir and Aarti madam, I must be very grateful that you have taken a week or so for rehearsals and conversations and interaction changes, how best you could bring in. And Neha madam is a versatile genius in the way that I have not seen today the real Neha. On the other day, we spoke over phone for hours and I got so inspired about her words, ideas, and her way of thinking. I am great that we have her here. With regard to ma'am that you live in Chennai, I wish to tell you, ma'am, that is, you got up just now. Okay. I want to discover one thing that we have one person called Rakesh Sharma, who was an astronomer, the first Indian astronomer. I have come to know that he is living in Chennai and he is not exposed to the social media or any other thing, and he is in incognito. And your science show can find out where he is, and we shall have him as the guest of honor next time. Thank you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Yes.
Nice to have been together. I hope we'll meet again in another 3 months, as Narahari had said. So good night and goodbye. Bye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. We'll catch you later. If you have any query, any question, you can write to association's email ID. Thank you and see you again.
Raghavendra sir, you are the host,
Yes, I am.
No, you make me host because you will switch up and I cannot speak to Bikram now.
Okay then, bye.
Okay.
Thank you all.
So thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night.
We will be meeting often, no problem.
Sir, I think I did not connect to the science fiction and talk about the interdisciplinary. So I didn't get that point actually.
I was
more of general aspects that I
no, I was asking you to find
that.
No, I asked you to find out where is Rakesh Sharma so that we can bring him over here as a guest of honor in the next event.
Sure, sir.
He is in Chennai, I have found out. So that is my discovery.
Actually, an idea has struck now when I was thinking about science fiction. Actually, I have a sensory neurohearing loss problem. So I was just thinking how I could connect artificial intelligence, a robot who can help. The story is like this, who can help a person who that artificial intelligence and stem cell technology where because now presently hair cells cannot be induced. That is, it cannot be grown through stem cell technology in humans. It's not possible to regenerate hair cells for people who have lost hearing. So I was just thinking how I can create a plot, a story, a person who's struggling with hearing loss and how a robot can help and how we can connect stem cell technology. All these things were running in the mind because I felt I was totally out of place in this thing in the program because all of you were talking about fiction and all great topics and I was more concentrating on the other aspects. So I was just thinking maybe next time I could think of a story like that on that aspect and maybe I can present a story like that. Let me try to think about it that way.
Attending such a conference, convention, and a meet, we get the ideas how to progress like this. Only
It's a great
because
platform, sir. I learned a lot. And
no, one thing is
thank you for organizing this.
one thing is that I always realize
Fiction is totally new to me. So this is totally a new enlightening session for me.
no,
So-
even Carl Sagan has said that it is the beginning of an idea. This is theology. And once if there is an idea, then only you can develop. And moreover, whenever there is an idea, then only you can make it perfect or experiment. This is the thought experiment. Okay, no problem. What
But I really like the friendly atmosphere. And Neha ma'am, your talk was really good. I learned a lot, understood so much. It was all totally new to me, very enlightening. Thank you, sir,
Yes.
for organizing this.
Only one thing is that I got every idea like this, that we say that there is nothing in my brain. It is blank mind. So how we get it is let noble thoughts come to us from all the sides. That means presently there is nothing. And you have given me ideas and I shall develop. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Very friendly forum. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Bye, good night.
Okay, I have to speak to Bikramjit personally.
Sir, please.
Let others may hear, no problem whatsoever.
Sir, do we switch off the YouTube live session and the recording?